I trained against him every day, Thierry Henry, was just quite incredible. An Olympic sprinter, not wearing spikes, but with football boots on.
175 goals as well.
He was just, honestly, and in 2003, 2004, he just became like an animal on the pitch.
Sir Alex Ferguson sat on a podcast and said it plain. He was unstoppable. Not almost unstoppable, not difficult on a good day, fully, completely, totally unstoppable. Ferguson built one of the greatest clubs in English football. He had the finest defenders in the country. He spent weeks every season building plans for one purpose only: stop Thierry Henry. And still, it was never enough. When Henry ran at defenders, they did not think about tactics or positioning. They thought about one thing only: do not get embarrassed here. That was exactly what they called the Henry effect, every time. If you are already feeling it, hit the hype button on this video right now and give it some hype. It costs nothing and it helps the channel more than you know. Football legends from across the game have gone on record about what facing Henry was truly like. Defenders who physically could not cope, managers who built plans that fell apart in seconds, teammates who watched him in training every day and still could not believe what they saw. We are counting them down today, starting at number 9 and working our way to number 1. Every stop on this list takes you deeper into what made Thierry Henry the most feared forward this league has ever produced. Let us get into it. Number 9. Ronaldinho. When Henry arrived at Barcelona in 2007, the club already had one of the most exciting attacking groups in world football. Ronaldinho was the creative heart, Messi was rising, Eto'o was scoring for fun. There was no obvious space for a striker who had spent 8 years as the undisputed king at Arsenal. Henry knew that. He moved to Barcelona because he needed a new challenge. He wanted to prove himself in a system where he was no longer the main man, and that required a complete reset. Ronaldinho noticed something about Henry right away. He said Henry did not waste movements. Every run had a clear reason behind it. While other attackers at Barcelona were celebrated for creativity and flair, Henry brought something different: raw power, speed with pure purpose, a refusal to spend energy on anything that did not directly threaten the goal. Ronaldinho said it was an honor to play alongside him, that his presence changed the gravity of every game, and that every run Henry made was a genuine threat defenders had to account for. At a club full of footballing artists, Henry was the direct force that kept teams honest. Every time he stepped on the pitch, defenders had to shift their whole approach. Creativity alone was not going to be enough against him. Number 8. Samuel Eto'o. Eto'o is not a man who gives out praise freely. He believed deeply in his own ability, which makes his words about Henry carry real weight. Eto'o pointed to one quality above all others as the key to Henry's unstoppable status: unselfishness. Not the kind that comes from being modest. Henry had the ego of a superstar. He knew exactly how good he was, but alongside that ego sat the team-first mentality of a genuine playmaker. That combination made the entire Arsenal side harder to defend. When defenders committed resources to stopping Henry, they freed up his teammates. Henry was aware of this. He used it deliberately. At Barcelona, Eto'o watched Henry accept a reduced role without complaint. He moved back to the left wing to give Messi room. His assists kept coming. His pace and power gave the team a direct option that complemented their style perfectly. The ego was real, said Eto'o, but it never got in the way. That balance between personal pride and collective purpose was what made Henry genuinely unique among the greatest forwards of his era. Number 7. Arsene Wenger. Wenger saw something in Henry that nobody else had managed to unlock. When Henry arrived at Arsenal in 1999, he was a winger. Talented, but a winger. He had played out wide at Monaco and at Juventus. Wenger moved him centrally. Many thought it was a risk. It was not. It was the start of a revolution. Wenger later said that Henry did not just play for the result. He played for the beauty of the game. An assist carried the same value as a goal when it came from Henry, because both were executed with the same precision and the same 3 steps ahead thinking that separated him from every other forward in the league. Wenger's lasting assessment was about sight. Henry saw the game 3 steps ahead of every defender he faced. He did not react to the play, he dictated it before it happened. Number 6. Paul Scholes. Scholes is not the type to hand out praise carelessly. He is blunt. He says what he sees. So when Scholes named Henry as the player he most wished had represented Manchester United, people paid attention. His reasoning was simple. Henry had no weaknesses. Scholes called him a freak of nature. Other strikers had one defining quality: aerial strength, poaching instincts, pure pace. Henry had everything. He could score from 30 yards. He could dribble past an entire defensive line. He could outsprint the fastest fullbacks in the league. He could unlock a defense with a single pass. This complete package forced managers into extreme decisions. Some used a double pivot midfield purely to block passes aimed at Henry. Others told their fullbacks to never cross the halfway line to avoid being caught in a foot race. And still, it was often not enough, because the gravity Henry created on defenders simply opened space elsewhere for his teammates to exploit. No weaknesses, said Scholes. A freak of nature. That was the highest praise he knew how to give. Number 5. Gianluigi Buffon. If anyone understands what it means to face a forward one-on-one with no good options available, it is Gianluigi Buffon. Arguably the greatest goalkeeper in the history of the sport, and even Buffon admitted that Henry made him feel like a training cone. Buffon gave a detailed breakdown of why Henry's side foot finish was so devastating. The sequence was always the same. Henry approached with his body open, leaning as if about to shoot toward the far post. Every goalkeeper in the world knows that signal. Open body means far post, so you set yourself accordingly. Then Henry used the biomechanics of ankle rotation to redirect the ball into the near post at the very last moment. You had already committed the wrong way. Nothing could be done. Buffon said that even knowing this pattern, even having faced it before, you still could not stop it. The movement was too precise. The timing left no room to recover. Zinedine Zidane spoke to this same quality, said Henry did not simply kick the ball, he placed it into the net with purpose, as if watching the whole moment on fast forward and choosing the perfect frame to finish it. That precision is reflected in Henry's goals per game ratio, 0.68 in the Premier League, one of the highest in the history of the top flight. Number 4. Sir Alex Ferguson. Ferguson never pretended otherwise. Scouting reports on Henry kept arriving at the same conclusion. You cannot stop him. You can only try to contain him, and even containment was never a guarantee. Ferguson admitted that Henry was the type of player who could win a match entirely on his own, often through moments that no briefing had covered. No matter how thorough the week of preparation was, Henry would produce something that had simply not been accounted for. The goal he scored against Manchester United in October 2000 is the perfect example. Henry received the ball with his back to goal, tightly marked by Dennis Irwin. Most forwards hold up and wait for support. Henry flicked the ball into the air and cushioned a looping volley over Fabian Barthez. Ferguson said it plainly, cannot do anything about a goal like that. But what made it even more remarkable was Henry's own explanation. He said he deliberately placed himself in a slightly offside position behind Irwin, not to score from there, to force Irwin to check his shoulder. That single glance was all Henry needed. Irwin turned his head. In that half second, Henry had already planned his next movement. The blind side of the defense was manipulated before the ball even arrived. This was what Ferguson faced every season. A player who planned not just his own runs, but the exact moment when a defender's attention would slip. Ferguson tried tactical fouls, double midfields, and deep defensive lines. He could disrupt the supply to Henry. Stopping him completely was never truly on the table. And Ferguson, of all managers, knew that better than anyone. Number 3. Rio Ferdinand. Rio Ferdinand was one of the finest centre-backs of his generation. Dominant in the air, quick off the line, excellent at reading danger early, and he has spoken honestly about the specific problem Henry created that no other forward could replicate. It was the drift. Henry would start centrally and deliberately pull wide toward the left channel. On paper it sounds manageable, but the way Henry executed it was entirely different. Ferdinand explained that once Henry had drifted and isolated a centre-back in that wide channel, you were completely alone. No midfield cover, no full-back support. Just you, in open space, with one of the fastest and most skilled forwards the game had ever produced, running directly at you. Ferdinand described Henry as a gazelle, a player who appeared to shift gears without any visible effort. One moment at a steady pace, the next in full flight, and the gap between those two speeds was almost impossible to defend against. Drift also served a second purpose. When a centre-back committed to tracking Henry wide, it opened a gap in the centre of the pitch. Wenger had planned for exactly this. Ljungberg and Pires were instructed to run into that space the moment it appeared. Henry was not just beating his own man, he was breaking the shape of the entire team at the same time. Ferdinand felt this directly. The choice every time was the same: lose your shape or lose the foot race. Either way, Arsenal punished you. Number 2. John Terry. John Terry built his reputation on being a defender who feared no one. Brave, aggressive, technically superb, not someone who admitted to being troubled easily. And he named Thierry Henry the greatest player in Premier League history. Not the best he faced on a specific day, the greatest. Full stop. His explanation came down to the penalty box. Thierry said Henry had the fastest feet inside the area of any player he had ever faced, and that created a problem with no real solution. Think about the decision from Terry's side. You step in and try a tackle, Henry's footwork draws a foul or takes the ball past you before your leg arrives. You give away a penalty or you are beaten. If you hold off to avoid that risk, Henry drives at you with time and space. Or he picks his finish calmly with no pressure at all. No neutral option. Every decision a defender made inside the box against Henry had a punishing outcome attached to it. Terry said this is exactly why traditional marking was useless against him. You could not hold a line. You could not track his runs without being exposed for pace. You could not challenge without risking a penalty. Henry owned the penalty area, and defenders like Terry, among the best in the world, were left as guests in a space where he made every single rule. Number 1. Jamie Carragher. There's no defender in this countdown who was more honest about what Thierry Henry did to him than Jamie Carragher, and there is no moment in Henry's career that captures what unstoppable truly means better than what happened at Highbury in April 2004. But first, understand what Henry was already doing to Carragher's mind before a single ball was kicked. Carragher described Henry as the only opponent in his entire career who made him feel small on a football pitch. Not physically small. Carragher was a tough, elite-level defender who had faced the best forwards in the world. But Henry created a specific feeling that no other forward could replicate. Before the match had even started, Henry's presence on the pitch carried a certainty, a quiet, total confidence. The goal is coming. It's just a question of when. Carragher admitted that during Henry's peak years, from 2002 to 2004, his entire mental preparation before Liverpool faced Arsenal came down to one single thought. Do not let Henry destroy you today. Not win the ball. Not press effectively. Simply survive the afternoon without being publicly humiliated by this one man. That was the starting point. The match had not even begun, and Henry had already shifted the balance in his own favour. He fed on exactly that kind of mental collapse. And then came the match itself. Highbury, April 2004. Arsenal had been knocked out of the FA Cup and the Champions League within the same 7 days. Their title hopes were under real threat. Liverpool came to Highbury and led 2-1 at half-time. Everything was on the line. And then Henry decided the game was already over. His hat-trick turned everything around, but one goal stands above all others in the memory. He picked up the ball 35 yards from the goal. He drove directly through the heart of the Liverpool defence, going past Didi Hamann with total ease. He came directly at Carragher. He played a dummy shot. Carragher lost his footing completely. As he fell, he collided with his own teammate Igor Biscan. Both men hit the ground, and while they were still falling, Henry calmly slotted the ball past Jerzy Dudek. Carragher later said it was one of the most embarrassing moments of his entire career. A professional defender at the absolute peak of his powers, taken off his feet by a single feint, bringing down a teammate in the process. Watching the ball go in without a single defender left standing. That is what unstoppable means. Not just pace, not just technique, the ability to make an entire defensive unit collapse through one single movement. No other forward in this league's history has ever done it with the same consistency, the same certainty, the same control. That is Thierry Henry. Now the full picture is clear. Across every era, every club, and every tactical plan this league has ever seen, men who faced Henry all reached the same conclusion. His dominance rested on 4 things that no other forward in the history of this sport has ever combined in the same way. Biomechanical superiority. He was recorded at 39.2 km per hour in 1998, still faster than Kylian Mbappe's recorded peak of 38 km per hour. And he combined that top speed with the fastest feet in the box that Terry had ever seen. Intellectual finishing. The side foot mastery that left Buffon rooted to the spot. Blindside manipulation behind the 2000 volley at Old Trafford. Henry did not shoot, he placed. Tactical subversion. Left channel drift that pulled Ferdinand into no man's land and opened space for Ljungberg and Pires to run through. Henry did not just beat his own man, he dismantled entire defensive shapes. And psychological hegemony, the fear he planted in minds before kickoff, the way Carragher prepared for survival rather than victory, the way Ferguson built plans around containment because stopping Henry entirely was never a realistic aim. His Premier League record closes the argument. 175 goals in 258 appearances, 74 assists. A goals per game ratio of 0.68, a single season of 24 goals and 20 assists in 2002 to 2003 that stood unchallenged for nearly 2 decades. Ferguson said it, Henry said it, Carragher said it, Buffon said it, Wenger said it. Every man on this list said the same thing in their own way. Thierry Henry was unstoppable. The numbers prove it beyond any reasonable argument. The memories confirm it in ways that statistics alone never could. And the men who faced him carry that truth with them for the rest of their lives.